As Tim said, my name is Jason Taylor. I used to be the LEPC staff for District 4, which is up in Jacksonville. So if there's any people who have facilities up that way, you may have seen my name a couple years ago. So it's been a little while. A lot of the information that the legal side, it's staying the same. It's not going to change. So we'll go through that kind of briefly. I don't want to bore you. I think most people, show of hands, are here for the E-Plan part, how to file with E-Plan. Okay, so we will get to that. I just want to let y'all know, I just want to provide everyone the same kind of baseline information just to kind of get everyone on the same page. So I'm going to be using a lot of 3- and 4-letter words. I apologize for my language. You'll see most of them up here, acronyms. So it just kind of goes with the territory. So if you are not sure about a 3- or 4-letter word that I use, please just raise your hand, stop me, let me know. These are going to be some of the main ones we're going to be using: CAS, CERCLA, EFTRA, EHS, MSDS, RQ, TPQ, CERC. Are any of these not familiar to anyone up here? Probably a couple, but that's okay. All right. Just go over some of the purpose and the history. Back in December of 1984, in Bhopal, India, Union Carbide had a release of a chemical called methyl isocyanate. And to this day, we're still seeing the impacts of this release on the people of Bhopal, India. Health defects, blindness, birth defects. It immediately killed, I think, 20,000 people over a few days' time. In reaction to this, U.S. Congress decided that they were going to propagate the Superfund Amendments and Reauthorization Act of 1986, also known as SARA Title III. State of Florida, we refer to it as the Emergency Planning Community Rights No Act, or EPCRA. So you'll see me use SARA and EPCRA kind of interchangeably. I'll try and stick to EPCRA because it is at the state level, so I'll try and use that. Big takeaway here, disaster release reaction in the U.S. Okay. EPCRA is made up of several different sections. I'm going to be using a lot of numbers: 301, 302, 304, 311, 312. This refers to the section of SARA Title III or EPCRA that I'm going to be referring to. The first part here for Section 301 is this establishes in all 50 states the State Emergency Response Commission, or the CERC. The CERC then establishes the local emergency planning committees, which, as Tim said, we're here in District 6 in the state of Florida. There are 11 LEPCs in the state of Florida, and they are aligned with several counties. Anyone from out of state worked with other LEPCs, different states. Some states aren't set up the same way. Some of them have municipal LEPCs at a city or a county level only. State of Michigan is like this. They have municipal and county LEPCs. So there's a lot of conflict and intersections, and there's a lot of controversy of who gets what, when, how, and everything else like that goes along with scarcity of resources. Florida decided back when this was started that we're going to go with the 11 LEPCs to align with the 11 regional planning councils. So when you see East Central Florida Regional Planning Council, the LEPC District 6 is housed in the Regional Planning Council. The LEPC and the RPC are two different things, if that makes sense. So you're here in the Regional Planning Council offices, but this is, for all intents and purposes, headquarters for LEPC 6. There's different types of chemicals out there. What EPCRA does is it establishes these different types. There are some that are designated as extremely hazardous substances, or EHSs, and there are others that are just considered to be hazardous materials. Some of the common EHS substances that you'll see: ammonia. If you have ammonia, just raise your hand. Ammonia, chlorine, sulfuric acid, hydrochloric acid, sulfur dioxide, nitric acid, any agricultural suppliers, oxymel, aldicarb, a couple of those, okay. So these are kind of the worst of the worst. What EPCRA does is it says, okay, we have established that these are worse hazardous materials than others. These are the most deadly, they're the most caustic, they're the most disruptive to health, safety, or things like that. Whereas other chemicals, they've determined to be not as hazardous. They're still hazardous materials, they're just not as hazardous. There we go. Should have had the movie reel going, turn off the cell phone. It happens. What what's going to happen with 302 is those chemicals in certain quantities, or threshold planning quantities, TPQs, are going to be established by EPA. If everyone got their single handout, it's a front and back sheet. This is known as the EPA list of lists. I just printed out one page. The one side is listed alphabetically. The other side is listed by Chemical Abstract Series number, or CAS number. So it's the same list organized two different ways. When you actually see the full list of lists, and it's basically this thing here. It's basically just the same list, two different ways. So you'll see on here, the first column is name, and then you'll have the CAS number in the second column. And then the third column is the Section 302 Threshold Planning Quantity, or TPQ. If a chemical is at that amount or exceeds it, then it's reported under Section 302. Make sense? All right. Can someone find for me chlorine and give me the CAS number for chlorine? So, very good. Okay. Can someone else tell me the point at which you would need to report that you have chlorine on site? 100 pounds. The numbers you'll see on here are all listed in pounds. So if you have 150-pound cylinder of chlorine, you'll need to be reporting chlorine to different entities. We'll go over who that goes to in just a little bit. But I just kind of wanted to give this to you as an example. I'm kind of old school sometimes. I like kind of the paper and the feel. I like being able to go to my list of lists and look it up. EPA does have some good information on their website for the list of lists. They've got it as a PDF, which is searchable, but they also have it as an Excel file, which is sortable, which is helpful and friendly, and can be a little bit cumbersome depending on how you organize and sort, but they do have that online. If you have any questions about where that is, I'll actually have Tim send out a link to that to everyone so you can kind of see where those are. If you have chemicals on site, you get a new chemical, and you're not sure, well, hey, what's the CAS number for this? You can go to the list of lists and figure out what it is. There's new chemicals coming out all the time, so they have to create these numbers. Questions on that before I move on? Anyone confused by this? Okay. We're going to go back to this in just a little bit when I get to another section here. For the Section 304. If you have a release of a certain chemical at a certain amount, then you'll also need to report that release of the chemical. That report needs to go to, and is reported to the State Warning Point, or now the State Watch Office. And this is considered to be your notification to the CERC and the LEPC. The amount released is known as the reportable quantity. So for chlorine, the fourth column at the top says Section 304 EHS RQ, reportable quantity. What's the amount of a release for chlorine that you would need to report to the state? 10 pounds. 10 pounds. So if you have a release of 10 pounds or more, then you'll need to report that to the state. As part of your notification, it'll include these items down here: the chemical name, if it's an EHS, the estimated quantity, time and duration, if it was released into the atmosphere, groundwater, air, if you think it went off site. So if it's a gas and it goes because of the wind, that's considered to be going off site. If it goes into a waterway, that's considered to be going off site. And any evacuation injuries, maybe there's been a death, that has happened before. And then the name and telephone number of the contact, so they can call back for updates. Also want to make sure that y'all are aware, when you make your notification, calling 911 will not satisfy the reporting requirement for this release. So if you call, fire department, say, hey, I've had a release of, I'll just use, U.S. Cold Attack, I've had a release of ammonia, will not satisfy. You'll need to call the State Watch Office. I'll give you those numbers. They're in the presentation as well. A lot of you are saying, hey, how do I know how much is released? Ammonia, great example, you have to run an engineering report. That takes time. Under Section 304 of EPCRA, you have a 15-minute time frame to report the release of that EHS into the atmosphere. not a whole lot of time. You know, they say 15 minutes can save you a lot of money, right? 15 minutes, if you report it, can save you a lot of money with EPA. Has anyone here had EPA come in, had a release? Still alive? That's good. Alive and kicking? Okay. EPA, I've heard good and I've heard bad. They can be your friend, they can be your worst nightmare. If you don't make that notification within 15 minutes, they can be one of the biggest pains in the butt because they're going to collect a fine and a fee for that. So just so that you're aware, 15 minutes is all that you have. Now, back to my point, you have to run an engineering report to know how much you had and to know if you met the reportable quantity. When in doubt, call the state watch office first. We've had a release, we're doing the engineering reports, we're not sure how much it is, we'll call you back with the information. You have made your notification within 15 minutes, you're good. They'll give you a reference number. When you call back, you'll just give them the reference number to say, hey, you know, just call them an update. It's actually, you know, for chlorine, it's actually 9.5 pounds. So it doesn't meet the reportable quantity, just wanted to give you an update. That's all it takes. Just a simple phone call, and you're good. If it goes over the reportable quantity, let's say it's 12 pounds, hey, we called earlier within the 15 minutes, it's actually 12 pounds, we just did the reports, we just wanted to let you know, you're good. You won't get a fine for the release if you've reported it. There may be other things that they look at later on, so I'm not going to say you won't get a fine at all, but at least for the notification side, I see a lot of people get dinged for the notification. They don't meet the 15 minutes. They call 2 hours later. They call 2 days later, and EPA doesn't like that. They want you to call within the 15 minutes. Questions on that? Has anyone had a release not reported within 15 minutes? Everyone's good, everyone's compliant? That's great. Yes, sir.
That's a question that,
sure.
You know, you can have a release and you not find out about it for a while. Like say you come on the site and you've got a oil leak or something. And is that 15 minutes from the time you identify the leak, or is it from the time the leak started?
That's a real good question. I'm not a legal expert, so I don't want to say it's one thing and that not be the case. I have seen situations where it happens overnight. They don't find out about it until the morning. It's from when the release occurs. So if you have alarms that will, you know, go off for gases, that's a good example. Oil is a different kind of set of rules because that's not considered under this to be an EHS. That's going to be more related to CERCLA, to RCRA, things like that. If it's used oil, it's RCRA. If it's not used oil, it's CERCLA. If that makes sense. So if you're familiar with those, again, there's those 4-letter, 5-letter, 6-letter words. But good question. Again, I would just urge, when in doubt, call the state watch office. They want to know if you've had a release. For other chemicals that are out there are those chemicals that OSHA requires you to have an MSDS, or Material Safety Data Sheet. Now, this is going to be starting to phase out as just the SDSs, the Safety Data Sheets, are phased in. So you're not going to see a whole lot more MSDSs. So these terminology terms, they do change, but it's just going to take time. And the industry as a whole is going towards that, which I think is great. I think that the SDSs are going to be much more standardized format. MSDSs, it could be here. There's kind of sort of a rough structure, but it's not laid out exactly the same for every single chemical, and you may have different MSDSs depending upon concentration or supplier or shipper, depending upon what you have. I know sulfuric acid for lead acid batteries, that's always a tough one. It's like, well, how much concentration is it 17%? Is it 31%? Is it 97%? Which one is it? And you go through it, you can't find the information. But for any chemical that OSHA requires an MSDS, this is going to be considered what we call a Section 311 chemical. Who here has propane? Who here has gasoline? Diesel fuel? Okay. Any other chemical that's not an EHS, that's in the amount of 10,000 pounds or more, will fit into this category. If it is an EHS, but it's below the 302, the EHS threshold planning quantity, like chlorine is 100 pounds. Let's say you have, that's not a good example. Let me actually use sulfuric acid. Threshold for sulfuric acid is 1,000 pounds. let's say you have 750 pounds of sulfuric acid. So it's below the 302 threshold quantity for reporting that to the state, but it's more than 500 pounds. You're still going to report that sulfuric acid under Section 311. So if it's an EHS at 500 pounds or more, or at its own TPQ, it is considered to be reporting under Section 311. Makes sense? Any 302 chemical that meets threshold is going to be a 311, but not all 311 chemicals are going to be 302s. Okay. If you do get a new chemical on site, there is a form to report it to the state within 90 days. If you're using E-Plan, the form doesn't apply, you'll just update E-Plan. But you do have 90 days to submit that information. If you're using E-Plan, you can submit your information at any point throughout the year. You don't have to wait for this reporting time frame to submit that information. You can update it daily if you wanted to. I don't know why you would, but you could. All right. Section 312, if it's a 311, it's also a 312. So it's the same chemicals that we're talking about. This is the actual reporting, the inventory of the chemicals. You'll fill out what's called a Tier 2 form. Who here's seen a Tier 2? Anyone here had nightmares over that form each year? Yeah. It's really not that scary. We'll break it down here in just a moment as to the components of a hard copy Tier 2. Is anyone here still filing hard copy Tier 2s? Is everyone going to E-Plan? Great. I would encourage you, if you're still doing hard copies, I had a gentleman yesterday in Brevard County. He's been doing them. He's got an 8-page Tier 2 that he fills out every single solitary year. And I said, your hand would just hurt, I would think, after writing all that information. And we set him up in E-Plan. We got him going. I didn't do the whole thing on all 24 chemicals that he had. I started with the first one. He goes, this is really easy. And next year it's going to be even easier. I said, absolutely. This is, I think, the second full year of E-Plan. If you did a report last year, 2012 reporting year, this year I'll show you. It's so simple to copy that information and then just update it. This information, if you're still doing the hard copy, I'm just going to say it has to be sent to these entities: the CERT, the LEPC, and the local fire department. Local fire department doesn't mean station 22 just down the road. It's going to mean your jurisdictional, either municipal or county fire department. So just keep that in mind. Local, as it's written, doesn't mean like the closest station to you. It's going to be probably their administrative system. They get that information out to everyone. They could have multiple stations show up to your site if it's a large incident. So don't just send it to like one station. Send it to an administrative system. And call them and ask them, where do you need me to send this to, if you're still doing hard copy. E-Plan will satisfy reporting to the CERT, LEPC, and local fire department. Is that the next question you're going to have? Yeah.
Because local fire wasn't last year.
Last year, it was, they didn't have the agreement set up with the local fire department. I'm fairly certain this year they have that. What they've done is they've done an opt-out program. Double check if you have questions with your local fire department, just to make sure they're in and on board. The reason I say that, City of Jacksonville considers themselves to be the authority having jurisdiction for this requirement. And they actually have a requirement to use Tier 2 Submit, which is EPA system. Anyone here use Tier 2 Submit? A couple people maybe. They're requiring their facilities to do Tier 2 Submit. They're the authority having jurisdiction. They say they can do it. No one's questioned it. Other ones, this is just easier to get to for E-Plan, for local fire department. There's some exemptions. I'm not going to go all over these, but if you're in the exemption, you probably already know who you are. If you don't, come talk to me after class, and we'll go through those for you. This is the nightmare form. You've probably seen it. Looks familiar. This is basically up at the top. There's basic information. I will just point out, for the address here, please use a physical location. Fire rescue hates showing up the PO boxes. So please use a physical address. SIC code, this is an old form. We've been moving away from SIC to NAICS. So if you don't know your NAICS, there's some resources out there to find your NAICS. Dun & Bradstreet is a physical geolocator. It's tied to the physical address. A lot of that really isn't being used Dun & Bradstreet is a very cumbersome system in my opinion. So if you have all this, that's great. I mean, that's a great identifier. That Dun & Brad won't change. Whereas SIC codes sometimes change, and even addresses change, and street names may be different and things like that. Your employer identification number, you will need that information as well. Owner and operator, this is going to be owner and operator. Name, mailing address. If you have a PO box, you can put it in up here, and a phone number. Emergency contacts, we do need 2 of those at least, with a daytime and a 24-hour phone number. Okay, pretty simple up top, nothing big, nothing stressing anyone out. It's going to be this bottom part, I think, that stresses everyone out. I've already talked about the list of lists, so you've got your chemical name over here. If there is a component that's an EHS, something that's, something chloro, whatever, the EHS component is probably going to be chlorine, I would guess. So if you have a chemical name and then an EHS name, that's where you'll differentiate those. Utilize your MSDSs for your physical states, pure or mixture. It'll be one or the other, not both. And it's either a solid, liquid, or gas. It may also be an EHS, so if it is an EHS, circle that. So like chlorine. Chlorine would be pure. It may be a liquid or a gas, and it's also an EHS. So you would just circle those. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got a question. Some of our chemicals we blend as a mixture. You said it can only be one thing, but like I might have a product that's in 2 different products. Okay, it might be a pure product, and some we sell a pure product. Then we might blend it with another chemical. Okay, you could say it can only be one. And what I used to do, I used to put pure and mix. And then last year they said just put them all as mix. So yeah. I just want to make sure I did right.
Are you reporting the source chemicals separate from those mixtures, or are you reporting?
Well, we do blends of just it's really not a chemical reaction. All it's just a blend. Like
okay.
Okay, so
in that situation, I would put the chemical name, mixture, the state, and then if there's an EHS component of that, to put the EHS. Okay. If it's just another chemical, if it's several different chemicals,
like a lacquer. I got like acetone.
Okay.
So I just put acetone, and then I can add them all together that I do, whatever I can do.
For some states, the way that they do fee structure is they do the number of chemicals that you have. State of Vermont is like that. So if you have 10 chemicals, they charge you based on the number of chemicals. State of Florida doesn't charge on the number of chemicals. So for some people, the number that you put on there, they don't like to put 20 different chemicals. They only want to put 2 or 3 because that's how they're getting charged. State of Florida, you can put 15,000 chemicals if you want. We have a couple facilities in this area that have a ton of chemicals, and their tier 2 is like this gigantic stack, Brentag. Name names, I guess, has a ton of chemicals. So because we're Florida, they're not charged by the number of chemicals that they have. You can list as many as you want, whatever your process is. I mean, I'm not going to sit up here and tell you your process is wrong or anything else like that, but if you're asking qualitatively, is that a good way to do it? I think that what you're doing is fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Physical and health hazards. This is probably the one that confuses the most amount of people. How do you find that? Your MSDS is probably one of the best ways. Ask your chemical supplier to provide you with that if you're not certain. Propane obviously is going to be a fire and immediate and delayed for its health effects. Chlorine is sudden release of pressure, water reactive, immediate, and delayed. Again, look to your MSDSs or your chemical suppliers if you're not sure. It's just going to depend on the chemical. Reactive there, just to clarify, means water reactive. So sulfuric acid, chlorine, those are both water reactives. So you would check reactivity. In here, we used to have what were called range codes. It was a 2-digit number that was, 0 to 99 pounds, 100 to 999 pounds, 1,000 to 9,990. We've gone away from range codes for the hard copy. You'll still see them on E-Plan as a range. We'll get into where that is later on. Maximum daily is going to be the total amount that you have on site at any one time. Whereas average daily amount is going to be the average amount that you have on site for the duration of that chemical being on site. And then the days on site will be how long you have it. Most people, your maximum, your average will be the same number. and your days on site will be 365. You always have that chemical on site. Your maximum is usually your average. That's the most you have. Agricultural suppliers, farm supplies, they get a big shipment of insecticide, like Oxamil. For 90 days, they have it on site. They get a ton of it, but the amount that they have it on site, their average is lower. So it's really going to be, how are you tracking that information to have that?
Is this just chemicals that are over 500 pounds? Is that correct?
This is for any chemical that you're reporting, whether it's a 302 or a 311, 312 chemical. So if you've got propane, you've got 20,000 pounds of propane, you're going to be filling out all that information with maximum daily amount, average daily amount, and days on site. If it's sulfuric acid for 1,200 pounds, you're going to be filling out another chemical down here with the same max, average, and days on site. So it's for any chemical that you're reporting. That's what they're looking for here. Container type, pressure, and temperature. This part is very confusing. One of those things. This is a letter number combination. Container types: A, above ground tank; B, below ground tank; C, cylinder; D, drum. That's about all I can remember. I can remember A, B, C, and D. E-plan, it has a drop down. It's a lot easier. You don't have to remember and keep it all up here or on a sheet of paper. Pressure and temperature. Pressure is numbers 1 through 3. It's ambient, greater than, less than, 1, 2, 3. And then the same for temperature. It's 4 through 7. Ambient, greater than, less than, cryogenic is 7. So there's different container types, pressure types, and temperature types. Chlorine would be something like L14. You would see something like that. If it's propane, it's probably, if it's an above ground tank, A14. Below ground for gasoline, B14. There are some that are stored greater than. I think ammonia is at greater pressure and lower temperature. So it may be an above ground tank 2.5. No, 2.6, I think. So greater than ambient pressure and lower than ambient temperature. It's not quite cryogenic, but it's pretty darn cold. Storage codes and location. This is going to be a narrative description. So yours might be southwest corner of facility 1, 2, 3. It may be shed A at site. It may be center of facility. Wherever that is, they're looking for a narrative description. These forms in hard copy version were used by first responders when they showed up on a scene at a certain address. They would need to know what chemicals you had on site. They would have to reference this. E-plan also makes it easier for them. There's a first responder portion of E-plan that's separate from the reporting that y'all are doing. They can go in, they can log in, and they can see what chemicals. They type in an address, and they can see the chemicals that may be at that site. They can also see they've got a fire at one facility, but there's a giant propane farm, Blue Rhino, for instance, that's next door. And I'm not singing Blue Rhino out or anything else. They just have a lot of propane, as we all know. But they need to know that chemicals in a certain radius, let's say a mile radius, that there are these other chemicals that could be impacted, especially with something flammable like propane. So they have that information. They were using this for that purpose. The main goal, really, of this information is to protect life of citizens and of first responders, and protect property of citizens and the public, just in general. So that's the reason for having this information, is really for protection of life, safety, and property. At the bottom here, you just had a certification. Some people, it may be the person filling out the form. Some people, you may have a VP who wants to sign off on anything. Maybe the owner or operator, maybe the president of your company or organization. For other municipalities, it may be your city or town manager. It may be a supervisor. Whoever that is for your internal processes is going to put their name, signature, and date at the bottom. And then there's optional attachments, site plans, site coordinates and abbreviations for other safeguard measures like NAICS or verbs that are on site. Again, these are optional that you would attach in a hard copy. In ePlan, you can actually attach a file. So if you have, let's say, a PDF of your site plan, you can attach it in ePlan. Questions on this? Again, for a lot of you, this isn't as relevant because you're all doing ePlan. So I just bring it up because this is how we used to do it. I think we're going to phase this out as we get more and more people through ePlan. But there's still no requirement that you must use ePlan. If you don't want to use ePlan, you can submit a hard copy. I think it's personally tougher. I would encourage you to go to ePlan if you aren't already. So I'll just say that for the record. Ways to submit. erplan.net is the ePlan website. This has been negated this year. Still missing the local fire department. You should be able to use ePlan as your submittal to your local fire department. If you're not filing online, then again, you must send it to the CERT, which is the state, via hard copy by mail only. If you're doing a hard copy, check with Tim with the LEPC and your local fire department for their preferred method if you're doing the hard copy only. I know Tim has taken it via email, fax, carrier pigeon. I don't think he's up to Morse code yet, but there's different. These are the best jokes I got. Sorry, they don't get it. But check with them for their preferred method. Sir? What's that?
Strikeforce drop.
Oh, yeah, there you go. I'm not going to spend too much time on TRIs. Do we have any TRIs here today? Okay, great. Just be aware that there's another section of EPCRA for toxic release inventories. These are going to be people who routinely have toxic emissions. These are the different types of SIC codes that apply to it. And again, they have their own thresholds on your list of lists that you have. So just for your awareness. Fee structure. I just want to say, this is not my favorite part. This is not the LEPC's favorite part, but this may be the state's favorite part for how they get paid. I say that jokingly. They really just want the information, more so than fines and fees and stuff like that. They really want the information because it does protect first responders. If this is your first time filing for a Section 302 facility, if you've got a new 302 chemical, let's say you didn't have sulfuric acid before, now you're adding sulfuric acid, there's a one-time filing fee if you're not already an EHS. If you had chlorine before, you're adding sulfuric acid, you don't have another fee. It's just a one-time deal. Okay? Annual registration. This is just for private facilities for 302 or 312. It's based upon the number of people that you have employed through the state. That's why they need your FEI to verify that with the Department of Revenue. It's $10 per employee, $25 minimum. So if you have 2 employees, guess what? You're paying the state $5 more what you probably should. But if you have more than, I think, 200 people, you're capped at $2,000 max. Okay. This does not include governmental bodies, municipalities, water treatment plants that are owned by a city or a county are exempt from this annual registration fee. Other private facilities, you're paying this each year. There are some exemptions for agricultural, petroleum, and a couple of other exemptions that we'll go over a little later on. TRI, they have a different fee structure. And then I'll just bring up late fees to get your information in by March 1st. After that, there's a possibility of a first notification fine of up to $2,000, and then after that, a second notification fine of up to $4,000. Don't be in that category. Don't submit late. Go home today, go back to your offices today, and start this process early. It's mid-January. You still got a month and a half to go. The state gets really busy this time of year with phone calls, so if you're waiting for the last minute, and I think this year the deadline of March 1st is on a Saturday. It's over the weekend, or the last day is on a Saturday. I think March 1st is maybe on a Saturday or Sunday. Then don't call on Saturday because they probably won't be there. So get it in early. March 1st is your deadline. Do it this week if you can. Do it next week at the latest. But get that information in and get it going. All right? Just review. The reason for this legislation is reaction to the Bhopal India chemical release. Purpose is to prevent loss of life, protection of property, increase public awareness, first responder safety, things like that. Depending upon the types of chemicals that you have, you may be subject to different reporting requirements. Just be aware of that. Maybe 302 and a 311, 312, or you may just be 311, 312, Toxic release tier 313. And then tier 2's annual registration due each year by March 1st. Questions at this time?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
If you're gonna go ahead and open up another facility, say in October, can you wait till March 1st? Or you gotta go ahead and sign right there.
You have 90 days from the presence of chemical facilities on your site to review. Yep, good question.
Is it up to the landlord to do this, or do you building?
That's a good question. You kind of expand on that. I guess I need a little more information.
If you are a landlord, you have a chemical leak your facility to a person with a chemical has chemicals. Is the landlord responsibility to file, or is it the owner operator?
I would say it's the owner operator. Yeah, because the landlord has the chemical on their site, they may not be the one using it. The owner operator is using it. So I would say the owner operator would be responsible. Yep, good question. Others? Okay. I just want to get set up for the next part. Just a quick login online. Do we need a 5-minute break? Or do we need everyone just want to keep on going and get to the e-plan part because you're bored with tears by this legal stuff, like I am. I have to present this again this afternoon, just so you know. This is my 3rd or 4th time doing this. So, I'm just, yeah. Okay, if we're still good to go, thumbs up, shake your hands. Okay, we'll just plug on then. Okay, I'm good. All right. Log on to the system, erplan.net will be the website. When you get to the page, it'll look something like this. The graphics on here, I'll just make a note, maybe a little bit outdated. You can change the graphic user interface or the GUI if you're tech literate, which I'm not. I just know GUI. I just like to say GUI. It'll look something similar to this. It won't look exactly like it. I'll actually, once we go through this part, we'll actually go back, and if anyone has their access ID with them today, great. I can log you on, and we can look if you're okay with everyone seeing it. If it's public record anyhow. We can actually go through and look at your facility, and I'll show you how to get started. Yes, ma'am, question?
One of our owner operators got an email for an access ID.
Okay.
Because he signed up for tier 2, and I have other owner operators within the same company.
Right.
Are they each going to get an email with a separate access ID?
It depends on how they filed previously. If they each filed, so what you're saying is there's not one access ID for all 6 or 7 sites.
I don't know why he got one. That's why I'm asking. I filed under one.
Okay. It may be he filed under one, but he's getting all e-plan.
But I'll ask. I didn't know if you knew why.
I mean, I don't personally know why for that particular situation. It's probably how the registration was done. So I'm not certain.
I'll check
but yeah. When you get to erplan.net, you'll see these. This is the first responder login. So this is where they'll go look up the information. But for y'all, you'll want this right side right here. And you'll click there to begin filling in your information to submit. The login screen has changed drastically. It's actually going to be kind of on the lower right-hand side to enter in your access ID. If you've never used it before, there is a place for new users to register. It'll ask you to create a password, an email address, and your company name, and it'll plug that information in when you first start the registration process. Is there anyone here not registered yet? Wow, everyone here is already registered. That is fantastic.
Well, we have a PHF report.
Okay.
Do you have this information on electronic?
For those of you who already have your access ID, it's a 7-digit code. Last year, when they were doing this kind of for the first time, the password was real simple. It was filing. If you've already registered, you already have your access ID, then you have your own password. That does not apply to you this year. Yes, ma'am.
I had my password last year, and I went to use everything, wouldn't let me in. So, Sam Brackett emailed me back, and I had to break file back in.
Okay. Have you changed your password since? Not yet? Okay. All right. So in that situation,
I didn't know how to change
yeah, we can look at that. If you forgot your access ID, it'll ask for the email of the person who registered last year. We had a situation with a company. The person who filed last year changed jobs, and so the new person after them didn't have the access ID and the password and all that. I would recommend when you get done with this process, print out the tier 2 that it'll submit all the other documentation and have a folder or a binder, or do it electronically if you have that, tier 2 information for filing, so if you, hopefully everyone is with their job next year, or maybe get a promotion and you're not the person doing it, that would be wonderful, right? More money, better, anyhow. Leave something behind for the person after you, just in case. In our business, we always talk about the proverbial hit by a bus. What happens if you're hit by a bus? Same kind of concept here. What if you're not there next year? Leave it for that person, and I would say have the access ID and the password for them, just in case, so they'll already have it. Just like this lady here, you can call the state technical hazard section for your access ID. At least this was for last year. Most everyone hopefully has it already, but these are the phone numbers here. 800 number, toll free, and then there's an 850 number as well. They're really busy this time of year. You'll probably get voicemail, or it'll ring and ring and ring and ring and ring and ring and ring. Again, call early. All right, once you log in, you'll see this is kind of a home page. I created a facility for this process. I called it Methyl Ethyl RS, and I said test, just so people would know this was not a real facility. It's a test Methyl Ethyl RS, and I had the state ask me, and they called me like, hey, is this a real facility? I put the address 123 Anywhere Street. I don't know how to make it more obvious, but okay. Quality control, they're doing their job. Great. There's 3 different parts. If you're entering in new data or retrieving old data, there's a select filing year here. The filing year is whatever year it is now minus 1. So we're in 2014. The filing year is 2013. Simple enough. Year before that, 2012, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The filing year goes from January 1 to December 31st, and then the reporting deadline is the March 1st of that next year. Okay. If you've already done it, most of you will hopefully be in this boat. You will just copy the data from 2012 to 2013. It takes a few moments for it just to process and load everything in and change the number, year, filing year that is. But it's a fairly quick process, and it beats writing it down on paper. 8 pages of chemicals worth. And then you'll click copy data. For those of you who may have used Tier 2 Submit, I don't think we had anyone in here, but if you were, I know AT&T and Bell South, they like Tier 2 Submit because they have reporting nationwide. You can actually import a zip file or a .t2s, the file extension pathway, or Tier 2 Submit. So you can import that in. Just food for thought. All right. If you're registering for the first time, like I was doing, you'll have some of this information to enter in the new data. It'll ask you for facility name, company name, again, Methyl Ethyl RS, reporting year, an email, and some of the other basic contact information. The physical address, again, not a PO box, physical address. See 123 Anywhere Street. I can't make it up. In Orlando, 32801, country USA, Orange County. Okay. If it's got a red star next to it, you have to fill out that field. That's fairly basic computer lingo stuff. Fill it out. If you don't, it'll let you know that you need to fill it out. All right. Continuing on, mailing address. So if you do have a PO box, you enter it up here. Location, latitude, and longitude. There's different methods for determining latitude and longitude. I will just note, latitude should be a positive number. Longitude should be a negative number. If longitude is a positive number, then you're someplace in like Bhutan, and Nepal, and India. Just translate that over. Fire department hates travel to India to show up for a hazmat school. So it's a long commute to Nepal. We'll just go back real quick. And then had a question come up this morning about these check boxes, 302, 311, 312. How do you know if you're one of those? Well, hey, we just had the first part. So that's why we do that first part, the legal part, so that you know. And you can check those boxes. Again, if you're a 302, you're also a 311, 312. If you don't have an EHS on site, you're just a 311 and a 312. Going back here is also an RMP, which is part of the Clean Air Act. So that's another checkbox that you'll be able to check. So just for that information. Submission, this is the certification at the bottom of the hard copy tier 2. I apologize, the print is real small, so I think electronically sending this out might be good, just if you can't see it on your form. But when you're going through it, this is just kind of to help you fill this out when you see it on ePlan. When you go to the website to ePlan, you'll be able to see it all there yourself. But this will be whoever certifies that. So if it's your VP, your EH&S person, your president, owner, operator, whoever that person is, then their submitter name, their signature down here will go in that box. As you're going forward, there's a couple of options at the bottom: save and continue, reset, which will clear all this information. Be careful hitting reset, or cancel will take you back to your home screen. Or it's like, no, I don't want to do this yet, or it's time to go to lunch and I'll do this later. You can always hit cancel and take you back to your home screen. Most everyone else, you'll want to hit save and continue. You will need your NAICS number. If you don't have it, don't know what it is, please get it. You will need it for your system. Okay. You can also enter in other information, other numbers, SIC, DNB, RMP, EIN, FEI. There's those acronyms again. I told you they come up. To have those as well. I used to NAICS and SIC, North American Industrial Classification System, SIC, Standard Industrial Classification. Just so that you have those as a frame of reference. You'll select the type, enter in the ID value. So for NAICS, it's usually a 5 or 6 digit number. For SIC, it's usually a 4-digit number, maybe a 3-digit number, I think, too. And then you can enter in the description. It's not required to enter in the description. I just did. I just enter in whatever it is. So chemical consulting services, chemicals, and chemical preparation, thought elsewhere. I just made it up. I mean, you don't have to enter in the description. I just did it. As you're adding the numbers, you'll click add, and then it'll prep you for the next one. Click add. Again, when you've done entering all the numbers, you'll click next. Okay. Entering new data and document upload. You can upload an MSDS, a notification page, diagram and site plans, your contingency plans, or other documents, photos, pictures, things like that. As long as it's not more than 9 megabytes. No more than 9 megabytes. You'll click browse, find it on your computer, and then it'll link it to your file, your submittal. Click upload. If you have multiple documents, upload, upload, upload. Okay, no more. Click next. What's that?
Next size for each.
Yeah, you'll need to click upload. I believe so. I don't think it's combined. I think it's each document is right. I'm not positive. That's a good question. I'm not positive. I think it's per file. Yeah. Yeah, like you could have like an audio file. Maybe a walkthrough or a video. I don't know why you would. It's kind of handy. Again, these are optional. You don't even have to do this. But if you do, it is helpful to have site plans for firefighters. They do like to know going through. They should be doing it as part of their pre-planning. But if that shift only shows up that one day out of the year, and you have a fire that's not on their shift, or you've got someone who's filling in for someone else, they're not going to know your facility like the person who did the shift walkthrough. So
It's optional.
the uploads are optional. Yeah, there aren't any mandatory fields on here. There's no stars. You'll see. Where does it say it?
Right there in the document. All fields are mandatory.
If you're filling it in, yes, all fields are mandatory, but actually filling it out is not mandatory. That's a terminology thing, I guess. But yeah, that's a good point. I didn't see that. I just skipped the the clicking part. All right. Questions so far? If I'm going too fast, please let me know. I don't want this to be a blur. Y'all are probably like, this is old hat for most people, it seems like. So when you get to this point, you'll actually have your facility will show up here, and then you'll be able to do different things. If you want to add a chemical next, you can you'll click this button here to add a chemical. It used to be you had a chemical, and then you associate the chemical with a location. In the old Florida HMIS system, anyone remember Florida HMIS nightmares still about Florida HMIS? Because I did. Hated that system. This is so much better. I just want to impress that upon you. Now you take a location and associate chemicals. Makes much more sense. That's just me. If you need to edit your facility, you have an edit button. Sometimes facilities closed. You can delete it real easy. It'll say, do you want to delete this facility? Click OK. They'll say, are you sure you want to delete this facility? And you'll actually have to go through a double-click process. Florida H was like, you deleted it by accident, like, where did it go? You know, it just deleted it. It didn't give you that secondary step. So you find a little bit better functionality in that. You can also add contacts. So, you know, we're going to go through, we're going to add a chemical. So I did chlorine. I already had the CAS number because I have my list of lists. I still have issues with the lookup function on this. I haven't had a good experience with the lookup part. Maybe someone else has. Again, that's why I like my hard copy lists. I can go through and figure it out. So this, for me, this still needs a little bit of work on. If you enter the CAS number, I should be able to hit lookup and it will auto-populate chlorine in my mind. It doesn't quite do that for whatever reason. So I still have a couple issues with that. It's an EHS. So I click the box there. It's on site 365 days out of the year. Does anyone have a trade secret chemical? If you did, you can use that function here. Just click trade secret. Coca-Cola, I think sometimes has trade secret stuff. Secret formula, they keep it lock and key. Most everyone, again, this is all public information, just so you're aware. Physical state, just like the other one, pure or mixture, solid, liquid, or gas. Those are your options. Hazards, fire, pressure, or reactive. And then health effects, acute and or chronic. It may not always be acute. If it's chronic, it may not always be chronic. If it's acute, it could be both, or it could be one or the other. And then the quantity. Here are the range codes down here. What it's been doing this year, I've noticed, is when you select the range code, the next number will default to the highest range code number. So for this, I selected O2, which is 100 pounds to 999 pounds. It defaults at the bottom to 999 pounds. So if you have 150, there's a big difference between 999 and 150. But just make sure that whatever number you're entering in, it'll just default to the highest number of the range code when you select the range code. And then the maximum amount in the container is also there. CAS numbers found on EPA's list of lists, just in case. Like I said, I don't like this lookup function. I'm not impressed with it yet. They're still working on it. And refer to your MSDS.
Do you have to use the range code?
Yeah. Well, the range code is still optional, but it doesn't like you entering in just the number there I found. So I would recommend using the range code. It says it's not required, but there's something not right with the system. If you convert gallons to pounds, I don't know if we covered that. How many people measure, like every other normal person, gasoline in pounds? No one. You measure it in gallons, right? If you need to convert, take the specific gravity of the chemical and multiply it by 8.34, which is the weight of 1 gallon of water. Okay, that will get your gallons per pound, the weight of the gallon. It's just 1 gallon, so then, like say you have 10,000, the specific gravity is 1, so 1 times 8.34, you get 8.34 times the number of gallons, 10,000, that's, 834,000 pounds of whatever the chemical is. It's math, I'm not a big fan of math sometimes, but it works. So, you can just take the specific gravity times 8.34. Okay. Storage locations. This will be the next part. Here's that, letter number part I was talking about. Drop down, you'll be able to select whatever. L is cylinder, A is above ground tank, B below ground tank, C, it's got all that right here for you. Pressure type, again, 1, 2, 3, ambient greater or less than. Temperature, again, 4, 5, 6, 7, ambient greater than, less than, cryogenic. but it'll all be right here. Location, here's your narrative description that you can give. So I just put Northwest Storage Shed, whatever it is, whatever you want to put. You've got a system that works, use that. And then maximum amount of that location. Well, I've got 2 cylinders at that location, 150 pounds per cylinder. The maximum at that location is 300 pounds in the Northwest Storage Shed. Yours may be, your entire amount of chemicals. It may be pieces and parts. It just really kind of depends. Click update. You can have multiple locations for the same chemical. Just click update, 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 and then again click next. Make sense?
You can't put that throughout the facility.
You could.
There's
there's nothing that says you can't put that. Again, I would just ask you to think if you had a relative who was a firefighter, a hazmat technician who was showing up at your site, would he or she want to know that you have chemicals throughout the facility, or would they want to know more specific where it is? I would just encourage you to think in that fashion. Yes, sir.
I had trouble adding, I got some products in steel drums and some in cans. I had trouble getting, second, obviously I got more in drums than cans. How would I had trouble adding, on the hard copy, it was easier, but, before, I've had a lot of trouble adding,
You would click update, and it'll add it to the location list for that chemical. And again, this is going to be these chemical storage locations associated with a single chemical. So if it's the same chemical, you'll just click update, update, update. If you have 3 or 4 locations, click update, and it'll add it up here. That makes sense? You may be clicking next and going on to the next part without adding the other locations. Perhaps. We can take a look at it later on if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm doing it right now.
Sure.
I think it will.
And then chemical components. We had a question about mixtures, percentages, and concentrations. This is where you can fill that out. So if you have a mixture that's 17% chlorine, percentage is right here. It's an EHS. For mine, it is an EHS, but it's 100%. There is no mixture, so I don't have to add any mixture components. It's not a mixture. Again, you could add that. Gasoline, by the very definition, is a mixture. Don't add all the chemicals of gasoline. There's actually a CAS number 4 gasoline, so just add gasoline. I actually had that as a question last year. Do I need to add all the mixtures of gasoline? It's already, just save yourself the headache. Do gasoline. That's a good question. If it's a trade secret, you would mark trade secret back here, but you'll still have to have the information. They just know that it's a trade secret. I guess what I mean by that is if it's a trade secret, they don't just give out the information for public information requests. They say, this is a trade secret. We have the information. We just don't put it out. That's a good question, though. I haven't had that one come up. Once you've done adding your chemicals, they'll show up here. We've got our one place here. We've got all of our, got some contacts in here already assigned. If you want to add new or more, you can do that. And then here's our chemical right here. Much easier process. You need to edit contact or edit a chemical. You'll just click the edit. You need to copy. You can copy, or if you just want to delete it. No, I didn't mean to add it. Or we don't have this one this year. You can hit delete, and it'll take it off for you. And it'll say, do you want to delete? Yes. Are you sure? Yes. And so it'll do a dual process. So we're going to add a new contact. I already had a couple on here. So, again, basic contact information, name, title, facility name, address. You will, if you have multiple facilities, and this is where I think your issue is somewhere along the line, he either submitted separate or his contact was associated with one of your facilities and got added on at a different part. So I'm not quite sure.
Facility has their own owner operator, and that's why he got the email. I have 4 other ones, but I still don't know do we get new access IDs every year?
You shouldn't be.
So I don't.
It should be the same access
I'm not
ID.
sure why it was even emailed if we have a login already.
Yeah.
So I'll try my old login,
Okay.
and then we'll try. If it doesn't work, I guess, then I can contact the guy.
Yeah, add that facility that he's responsible for to yours, and then call him either E-Plan or the state and say, hey, we need to delete his facility, because it's like a lone facility that's out there, right? Because you're going to include it in all of the other ones that you have. He's not going to file separate, is what I'm saying.
No, we only file one.
Right.
There's
one
a different
filing with
person
multiple
files.
facilities.
He just is associated with that tier 2.
Okay.
Right? You see what I'm saying?
He should be, but if he's getting a separate access ID, there's some glitch.
I think I'd agree with you. I'm not sure why he. So I'll find out. I don't know.
Okay. Save and continue, and then you'll go on to the next screen. Then you'll be able to associate different phone numbers and phone types. Note, owner and operator, name, mailing address, phone, and one emergency contact with name and 24-hour phone. That's the federal requirement. E-Plan has a couple of other requirements: multiple contacts, owner operator, tier 2 contact, emergency contact. So there's a couple. When you go to validate, it'll show you, hey, you actually need to add this other contact. Like, oh, okay, it'll click on it. I've got a mobile phone and a 24-hour phone. You have to have at least one 24-hour number and another like daily phone number. So you actually need at least 2 phone numbers per contact, and one of them will need to be a 24-hour phone. There's a ton of different options for phone types in this drop down. Then you just enter in the phone number. Again, click add. Click on adding, and then click next. Okay, so I got 2 numbers in here. Good to go. Click next. Select contact type. You'll associate the facility. So if you click the drop down, then you have multiple facilities. They'll all be there. I just had one facility, so all of it was down there. And then there's these different contacts. You'll need owner operator, I think regulatory point of contact, and emergency contacts. You'll need at least those 3, I believe, in order to continue through the process and validate the record. They can be the same person. For mine, I am the submitter, the emergency contact, and the owner operator. Most of y'all in here, you'll have multiple people, multiple emergency contacts, perhaps. Maybe one owner operator, and hopefully just one submitter or regulatory point of contact. But you may have multiple contacts. Probably should have multiple contacts. Mine, hey, I'm a small company. I've only got a little bit of stuff, so I'm doing it all. That is possible, but most real world, there'll be multiple contacts with multiple numbers for multiple facilities. Okay. And then I've got my record, and I will validate my record. There's a button here that'll say validate. In the new interface, there's actually a tab up at the top that you can click to validate it at any point in time. So you can kind of know, okay, yeah, I need to fill this out. Okay, that's the next thing I need to do. You'll kind of walk through the process. So I went through, validated. It says, congratulations. Your report passed all submissions. If it doesn't, there will be up in here the errors, and it'll actually link you. You can click on it. It'll take you exactly to where you need to go. If anyone remembers Florida HMIS, you had to start at the very beginning again and go through and find where the error was. You could find where the error was, and it just didn't work. This is so much easier if you don't get it right the first time. You won't be able to validate until everything at a minimum is at least entered. The information could still be wrong. Get a different key. Oh, it should have hit a 4 and I should have hit a 7. So, for a phone number like 704, you get a different number than the 407 extension. So you still have to make sure the information is correct. Just because it's entered doesn't mean it's correct. Okay. When I'm done, I like to print out from this point the PDF file of the Tier 2, just so I can have it on hand. Most of y'all, before you actually continue the annual registration, you'll have to have someone sign off on it. Yeah, this looks good. So again, maybe that VP, that EH&S person, president, owner operator, they'll probably want to see it before you continue and update and actually submit the Tier 2. So print it out from here first. Validation does include a date and timestamp, which is something we were pushing for at the state level a lot. Florida HMIS didn't do that, but this will validate date and timestamp report, which is really, really helpful. Again, you can export this information to a Tier 2 submit zip file, so you can put it back into your system once you're done, and it'll go back into your Tier 2 submit. Like I said, AT&T Bell South, they like to use that.
Does that have to be uploaded to ePlan before they'll give you the PDF? Because it's not letting.
Oh, it's not?
Yeah.
We were having an issue with that yesterday. I don't know what their system is doing right now. You should be, if everything goes according to how it's supposed to, you should be able to get the PDF. We can take a look at it though. Yeah. I was having issues with that yesterday for a gentleman. Once you're ready, once your person is signed off on it, so yeah, you can go ahead and submit. You'll get to this point and click continue to enter the annual registration part. This is the payment part, the fee structure part. So you'll go through, here's all the contact information. Here's your FEI number that you'll need. Your SIC code, I think they've done away with SIC. I think it just has NAICS now. That's why I said you'll need your NAICS if you don't already have it. You'll get your NAICS. Telephone, contact, title. All right, go to the next part. Here are the exemptions. As you go through, it'll only have one option. So is your facility a governmental body? If it is, you won't see any of these other ones. It'll just take you to the calculated fees part. If you click no, regulated by DEP for storage tanks, no. You'll go to the next one. Your facility regulated by DOACS, no. Facility regulated by Public Service Commission for gas transmission, no. You'll go to the next one. Is your facility's primary function to grow crops or raise farm animals? No. So what that means, I'm a private company, $10 per employee. I'll enter in the number of employees. I got 2. 2 times 10. You think it'd be 20, but again, there's that minimum, $25. $5 to go to the state, right? We should have hired 3 people, only paid $5. And then you'll click calculate. There, it'll give you that number that you'll owe.
You say if you're a private company, but if you're a public.
If you're a public company, you don't owe anything. Unless you're registering a brand new, if you weren't a Section 302 facility before, and you're getting a 302 chemical on site, then there's a one-time $50 fee for that site. I don't know if ePlan has that ability yet. I haven't seen that question come up. It's just been the fees for private companies. Yes.
Asked if your employees were leased with payroll system, you effectively didn't have any employees, you didn't have to pay. Where that happened.
Okay.
And that's where we've been going. Is that still effective?
I'm not aware. I did have a question of contract employees who aren't full-time or part-time. What number do I put? You'll put whatever you're reporting to Department of Revenue is what you should be putting here. So for taxes and unemployment compensation and things like that, unemployment insurance, that's the number that you should be putting in this block here.
These companies, they report all that.
That's a new one. I've not experienced that, so I don't want to say, oh yeah, do that, and then you're having to pay, or say no, and then they can say, hey, we actually see that you've got 25 employees on site, and you owe us money. So I don't want to say one way or the other. Whatever you're reporting to Department of Revenue is what needs to go there. There's a question in the back. Yes, sir.
Yeah, our facility is owned by 2 governmental bodies.
Okay.
But it's run by a private contractor.
Ah.
So every year we've always had to pay the number of employees in the state, but we're actually owned by a city and the county.
Huh.
Half to half.
Interesting. I would contact the technological hazard section. Sam Brackett's a good contact name, so if you can talk to Sam, he would be, I think, your best bet.
Okay.
That information. His email is sam.brackett@em.myflorida.com. sam.brackett@em.myflorida.com. You can email him or call that number that I gave you earlier for the tech hazard section.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Payment method. You can do check or money order. You can do credit card. Last year, you weren't able to do Visa. This year, confirmed it yesterday, you can use Visa. It is everywhere you want to be. Take note. There's a couple other ones. I think also the big 4. I think MasterCard, Visa, American Express, and I'm fairly certain Discover as well. So those are, I think, the big 4 credit cards. But they do now take Visa. They didn't last year. They do this year. Yes, sir.
File online, and you mail in the check?
Yes, sir. You'll just click this check money order right here, and then you'll click submit. But you can still do check. Yep. And that'll be made out. I'll show you who to make it out to. It actually will tell you on here. Here it is. You can make it out to the State Emergency Response Commission. It's really tiny. It'll be bigger on your screen. I promise. Address 2555 Shoemart Oak Boulevard, Tallahassee, Florida. I've got this a little bit later on, a little bit bigger, so you can actually read it and see it. It's in your presentation as well. I think it's like the second to last slide or so. But that's who you would mail your check to.
Can you reference somewhere on the check or on the letter?
I would print out a copy of your Tier 2 and submit it with the Tier 2, just so they have it, they can see it. That's probably the easiest way. Yep. This will give you a list of all your facilities down here. You can print your PDF at that time, and then when you actually click update, you will submit the information. And again, like I said, that will submit your Tier 2 when you click update, and you'll go through. If you need to have the information verified prior, you can say to come back to update later if you need to, once you've got the payment part. Yes, sir.
Does the system time out when you're in the middle of it?
With Florida HMIS, it did time out very quickly. This one doesn't time out as quickly. It may, if you leave it for a long period of time, it may time out. It will save to wherever you have clicked save and continue or update, wherever that terminal is, so whatever point you're at, you can come back to it if it does log you out. I'm not sure what the logout time is. I haven't really played with it that much to know if it's like an hour or 5 hours or something like that. But you can leave it for at least 15-20 minutes, I think, and it'll be okay. Yeah. But it will save to wherever you're at. Florida HMIS, it was like if you didn't get to that last save and continue part, you lost everything, and it timed out very quickly.
Whoever you're stopped at.
Should be, yes. Should be. All right, so I clicked on my PDF, and this is what I look like. Hey, it looks like that old warm, fuzzy Tier 2 form I love, so near and dear to my heart. Yeah, this is what it'll actually look like. So you can print this out and give it to who you need for them to pass off on it, and then go from there. All right, copy data. I love this function. This is so easy. You will click from to, so my 2011 filing to 2012, and I'll click copy data, and you get this nice little cool thing that flashes says copy completed, and then it'll show up over here. I've got just 2011. It'll actually show up 2012 button, and you can go right to it. And then there's my 2012 filing. If I need to add a facility, I can add a facility. If I need to edit my chemicals, I can edit my chemicals. If I need to edit my contacts, I can edit my contacts. And then I can go through the validate record and then submit it, pay for it, and it's done. Yeah, I mean, you're right there. So, all right. Again, Tier 2, submit, or Cameo files that we'll upload from Cameo if you're using that computer-aided management of emergency operations. Yep. And you'll just click that, and it'll take you through a process. You'll browse and upload. No one's using it here, so I just mentioned it because for reference, in case someone here was, since you are. If you do have other questions, there are instructional videos and tours at the bottom. In the drop-down, you can go through any of those processes. Create a new submission, add a facility, contact new chemical, edit, create a Tier 2 validate record. You can actually see it'll show you kind of a screenshot view of how to do it. So the system's really good at that. All right, here's your important telephone numbers and addresses. State Emergency Response Commission, this is who you make your check out to. 2555 Shoemart Oak Boulevard, Tallahassee, Florida, 32399-2100. Phone numbers to call for questions, right here, 800-635-7179 or 850-413-9970. You have a circular release. This is your notification here to the NRC, your Florida State Watch Office. If you have a suspected chemical release under Section 304, 850-413-9911 or 800-320-0519. Okay. Very important phone numbers. 15 minutes again for notification. Just mentioned that. Any questions? You can refer them to Tim Kitchen. He's the Emergency Preparedness Manager here for the Regional Planning Council. He's also the LEPC District 6 staff. You also have my personal email, c.jason.taylor@gmail.com. Again, if you're filing hard copy forms to the Regional Planning Council, to the LEPC, 309 Crane Drews, which is where we are right here, will come to this office. Phone numbers as well. You can call Tim or fax him. So those numbers are provided. Any questions at this time? Looking at the time. Wow, we're doing it ahead.